start with this game in particular. What are the Pels hoping to do differently from Tuesday night's loss to the Lakers to change the outcome tonight?
Well, I think a big part is obviously containing LeBron James. I think that's number 1, 2, and 3 in the game plan. That's probably the case every time LeBron steps on the floor. But he was absolutely unbelievable last time these two teams played. His first 40-point game of the season gave Drew Holiday a ton of problems. And I think obviously LeBron gives everybody trouble. But this particular matchup I think is tough for the Pelicans because they just don't have those big guys on the perimeter to deal with him. They had a whole lot of Drew Holiday on him last game. I suspect they'll do the same thing tonight. And it's going to be tough just because LeBron is so big and he puts guys down in the post. It's going to be interesting to see how Gentry reacts if he starts going off again. But obviously they got to stop him if they have any chance tonight.
Margin for error is a little bigger tonight for the Pelicans without both Anthony Davis and Alex Caruso in the lineup for the Lakers. All right, now to the Zion effect. In the 15 games since he made his pro debut, he's played in 14 of those. But the Pelicans are number 1 in the league in assists per game. How much does he in particular have to do with that number?
Hey, I think he has a lot to do with it, but I think it's just the matter of this team coming together. We saw earlier in the season when they went on that 13-game losing streak, I thought a lot of it was just the chemistry was off with this group. There was so many new guys, so many young players in new positions, and I think over a while we kind of see Alvin Gentry kind of putting his imprint on this group with the ball movement, with the pace. I think Lonzo Ball playing at a better level now has played a big part in that as well. And obviously, when you're throwing lobs to Zion, you're probably going to get the assist. So I think whenever you pass to him, you got a good chance of getting the assist. And I think the way the ball is moving right now, we're going to keep seeing him having these games with 30, 35 assists.
Well, and he's been as good as advertised so far, 23 points a game on 58% shooting at this point. And so the Rookie of the Year conversation has begun, despite the fact that when it's all said and done, he'll have played less than half the season. How big a topic has that become down there?
Oh, it's huge, and I think just the kind of the mini rivalry that's growing between Ja Morant and Zion Williamson is already heating up. The Rookie of the Year obviously plays a big part of it, and honestly, I think a big part of it is just going to come down to which one of those two teams make the playoffs. Between the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, the Pels feel like they're in a really good position with the schedule they've got coming up, with their ability to stay home as much as they are over these last 2 months, and they're feeling really good about their position. But just like you said, Zion at best is going to be around maybe 35 games this year. I don't think we've ever seen a guy win Rookie of the Year with that few amount of games. So I still think Ja's in the driver's seat. But, I mean, with the way Zion's playing, man, if he's putting up 30, 25 every night, he's going to make it really close.
The Pelicans announced that J.J. Redick will miss at least 2 weeks with a hamstring injury he suffered on Friday. 2 weeks is a long time. Is that a conservative estimate, or is there genuine concern that he could miss some real time down the stretch?
Yeah, I think as of right now, they want to stick with that 2-week timetable. They want to take it really slow with him. Obviously, he's a guy, deep into his career. But, I mean, it's a huge loss. There's no doubt with the shooting he brings to this lineup, with that extra punch he brings to the bench unit, and just the veteran presence. I mean, it's like I said before, this is a team full of young guys, haven't been in these playoff environments before, and we know JJ's been in the playoffs every single year he's been in the league. So he knows how to handle these games. He knows how to step up in moments when his team needs him most, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on guys like Josh Hart, Etuan Moore, and even Frank Jackson to come off the bench and replace some of that scoring JJ provides, and on Drew Holiday as well to be that veteran voice in the locker room. And it's going to take a lot, but I think the depth that this team has on the bench may help them out to kind of make up for that loss.
Tough loss, but it should be a fun one tonight for the Pelicans as they take on the Lakers and try to avoid the season sweep. Will, thanks so much. Will Guillory with us from The Athletic and from New Orleans tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys, let's talk more a little bit about Zion and this assist stuff we're talking about. 30-plus assists in 6 straight games now, 7 of their last 8. A lot of those go into Zion, obviously, because they don't seem to be running a ton of plays for him. It's mostly just playing ball, and when he gets open, you find him near the rim.
And that's the beauty of it, especially when you have a young team and they're willing to pass. Most young guys feel like they need to score to get paid. This team, Brandon Ingram's scoring at a high clip this season, but he's made some nice passes when they put him in the pick and roll game. Lonzo Ball's always been a pass-first point guard, but I think it's the energy that Zion brings to the game. And when he flashes in and you try to take away his post-up position, his spin lob to get to the rim is so quick. You have to pick your poison. Would you rather him get post position and use that body to bang you and get to where he wants to, or you take that away and you spin out and you give up a lob. So they put people in a difficult position to defend it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this roster has been well put together. Zion obviously is a guy everybody talks about, but Brian just mentioned Brandon Ingram. They've got other really good young players. They put good, solid veteran guys who are not only good players, but good leaders around them. And Alvin Gentry has always been one of the best offensive coaches in this league. He gets guys to play with great pace, and he always gets his team to share the ball willingly. This team's done it all year, but now what they've got is an elite finisher to throw the ball to near the basket.
After a few early games where you looked at Brandon Ingram and thought, how does he coexist with Zion Williamson? However, they've seemed to have figured it out. He had 29 in their last time out. What has been the impact on Ingram of Zion being on the floor?
Well, he starts the game at the 3 spot instead of the 4, which changes the matchup and changes the spacing on the floor for Brandon Ingram. He doesn't get quite as much room. But they do play a lot with Zion essentially as the 5, Melly in at the 4, or even with 4 smaller guys. So there's plenty of time. And Ingram's a smart guy. I mean, Brian knows him a lot better than I do. But he seems to have figured out the spacing with different lineups pretty well.
And I think, Alvin Gentry has sold him, and he's bought into this ball movement and player movement that they do. And like I said, and they're all willing passers. For about a 3-4 week period last year in LA, we had a lot of injuries, and we actually played Brandon at the point guard position, and we're pleasantly surprised in terms of how he was able to handle that and elevate his game. And he's continued to do that. I'm happy for him because he had, a nasty situation last year with the blood clotting, but he's rounded back into form. And I'm just happy that David Griffin didn't do a fire sale before before the trade deadline, and kept this team together to actually see what he actually has.
Remember, there are a lot of names floating out there in terms of players that other teams might be targeting, namely Drew Holiday, but you also heard Derek Favors and some other names as well. They're all still there as they try to make this playoff run, and tonight try to get a win in their 4th and final meeting with the LA Lakers.